Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you, Ambassador Sachdev, and thank you very much for the comprehensive insight that you bring to the African continent. Thank you very much for the time. We now move on and some more news. In Senegal, the arrest of 2 journalists directly from their newsrooms have triggered widespread outrage and renewed debate over press freedom. Authorities detained Mamoua Nador Faye, the director, the television of 7 TV, after her station aired an interview with media mogul and government critic Mamdia Diagne, who is wanted by the police. Armed grenadiers stormed the studio mid-broadcast and cut the channel's signal. A similar raid took place at Studio Futures Medias, where its director, Babacar Fall, was arrested shortly after conducting a phone interview from Dakar in Paris. Media groups and colleagues have condemned the arrest as an assault on journalism. Let's in fact listen in to what the editor-in-chief of 7TV had to say.
Maïmouna Ndour Faye a enregistré une émission avec Madiambal Diagne, qui a un mandat d'arrêt contre lui. L'émission a été prévue, la diffusion a été prévue à 21h30. Quand la diffusion a démarré, des gendarmes armés jusqu'aux dents sont arrivés, ils ont envahi les locaux de la télévision, ils ont accédé à la régie et ont demandé au régisseur d'arrêter la diffusion. Maïmouna a été sorti, on lui a passé l'info, il est revenu et tout de suite, on l'a embarqué de force, sans mandat, sans convocation, pour après se retrouver, être placé en position de garde à vue. Oui, présentement, le signal a été coupé sur la TNT. Ça avait commencé hier soir. C'est revenu ce mercredi matin, on a poursuivi nos programmes, mais entre-temps, ils ont reproduit le même scénario. Et donc là, présentement, au moment où nous parlons, le signal de la 7TV a été effectivement coupé.
We're now joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at the Hudson Institute and he joins us live from Tokyo. Dr. Nagao, thank you for joining us. Of course, 2 journalists arrested inside the newsroom. What does that say about Senegal's democratic backslide under President Faye's government?
Yes, this is a very unfortunate situation because when we check the history of Senegal, the election was fair and 3 times through the election they changed the government. So that's why in Africa there are many coup or there are many dictators, so do not respect the democracy. But in this Senegal, the Senegal was a typical country which respects democracies. Despite this, in the Senegal, this was the government policy to arrest the journalists has happened is quite unfortunate, and they should not do that, I think, because fair democracy in the Senegal is very simple, good democracy in Africa. So that's why if they try to change this situation, this means that the image of the Senegal drastically decline, I think.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Nagao, do stay with us. We have another story from the African continent. Nigeria's top general says that the military does not have enough resources to win its war against jihadist groups and called on the country to strengthen its police force. Lieutenant General Ofemi Olude, tapped by President Bola Tinubu as the next Chief of Defence Staff, addressed the National Assembly in the capital Abuja as part of the Senate's screening process before his expected swearing in. Nigeria has been battling jihadists in its northeast since Boko Haram's uprising in 2009, in a conflict that has spilled across borders and created deadly splinter groups, including the rival Islamic State West Africa province. We are now once again joined by Dr. Nagao. Nigeria's top general says that Nigeria one of the most powerful countries in the entire African continent, is lacking resources here. After 2 decades of war, how has the world's biggest anti-Boko Haram campaign reached a low point?
Yes, in case of Nigeria, Nigeria is a leading country in Africa. If the United Nations try to reform and find a new country as a permanent member of the Security Council, they try to choose 2 countries from Africa, and the candidates Egypt or South Africa or Nigeria or Ethiopia, these countries. So that's why Nigeria is always a leading country and rising country, the people believe. But at the same time, their northeastern regions has suffered Boko Haram's activity for a long time. And so this is not a recent issue. Indeed, for a long time, this has a continued issue and the weak point of Nigeria. And the problem is, yes, Nigeria's armed chief has already pointed out lack of resources to cracking down this. This is a very important problem because recently the Boko Haram or Al-Qaeda-related terrorist attack create turmoil. After that, indeed, African government has changed through call and army took the government. And after that, the Russian supported Wagner, support this new government instead of the France or other Western countries. That is indeed a pattern in the Africa recently. So through this process, one by one, the Russia's influence is expanding. But if that kind of situation will reach Nigeria, because Nigeria is a leading country in Africa, it will affect strategically in the worldwide. So that's why Nigeria need to prepare enough resources to deal with this problem and making the government stable. That is needed. It will affect more wider region, I think.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Nagal, for bringing in your insight there. It's a pleasure to have you here on the programme. Now we move on. And formed 5 years ago with only 2 players, South Sudan's national blind football team has grown into a symbol of hope and determination. Today, with 40 members, the team dreams of competing on the world stage, including the 2028 Paralympics in the United States. Bringing together players from various tribes, the team stands as a powerful example of unity in South Sudan, the world's youngest nation still struggling with conflict and ethnic divisions. Meanwhile, the football team coach and co-captain and a law student have reacted to the situation. Let's take a listen in.
You know, the team that is here is a team that is comprised of many different tribes. We have people from Dinka, we have people from Anuak, we have people from different tribes of South Sudan, and they are playing in the same team. This is exactly what we want for the young people in South Sudan, not to involve themselves in anything that is harmful to their future.
I am very proud because it is our first time as visually impaired players from South Sudan to represent South Sudan at international level. And not only that, but also is to tell the whole world that South Sudan also they got an inclusive sport, whereby no one should be left behind, regardless of disability that we have in the country.
Today, just because most of the players are my hobbies and I'm patriotic, and they're also having the same disability with me, they are also blind, and I feel that if I see my fellow blinds in the field, I feel loved and I feel proud, and I think that the country and the world at large is really supporting and protecting people with visual impairment.
Now we move on, and US President Donald Trump describes his meeting with China's leader Xi Jinping as a great success while speaking to reporters on board Air Force One. He also discusses the reduction of fentanyl-related tariffs, the resumption of nuclear weapons testing, the war in Ukraine, and the ways a deal was made on the supply of crucial rare earths. Trump added that the deal included China immediately buying tremendous amounts of soybeans and other farm products, a key issue for Trump's support in farm country and a point of leverage for Beijing. Neither leader made any public comments immediately after the talks, which lasted around an hour and 40 minutes. Let's take a listen in.
Thank you all. It was a great success. It was a great honor. I mean, he's a tremendous leader of a very powerful country, and I give great respect to him, and we appreciate the fact that he came for this meeting. Thank you very much. I've agreed, as you know, I put a 20% tariff on China because of the fentanyl coming in, which is it's a big tariff. And based on his statements today, I reduced it by 10%, so it's 10% instead of 20%, effective immediately.
Well, that's all we have time for on the Africa